that as well, and the recording has started. We have a guest today. This is Randy, and he is with Gateway Christian Church. He's going to be our host this evening. And we also have Lupe, who is going to be providing Spanish translation. So if you're needing Spanish translation, you need to select the interpretation option, and she will be there to provide Spanish translation for you. For questions, we ask that you use the chat, and we will be reviewing the chat for questions. We have some questions already that have been sent in as well, but please use that if you have any questions this evening. So Randy, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you, Jill, and Lupe and Chief Mathos, and a very pleasant good evening and a happy new year to everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure that there's a lot more people that will join us once they figure out this is what we're doing. The plan right now is that we're going to do these chat with the chiefs every first and third Tuesday of the month. So if you're joining us tonight and you didn't know this was happening, it's going to be a regular thing. And invite your friends. I mean, this is all about building a relationship of trust with each other. We all live here. And some of us, myself, I've been working here since 1997 when we started Gateway Christian Church. I'm the pastor of Gateway Christian Church. Now, the chief has only been here a few years. I'll ask him about that specifically. But Rohnert Park is, I got to tell you, it's a great place to live. And we're so excited to have a dialogue happening with the people in our community. So welcome, everyone. We're great to have, it's just a great thing to have you. So Chief, I got a couple of questions that have been submitted to us. And so we'll just start right off the top with a question that came in. And a resident of Rohnert Park says, I'm a 10-year resident of E section. And although I only get my information from next door, but it seems like the crime of people stealing catalytic converters is on the rise. And so the question is that with these crimes on the rise, is there something that can be done to limit them? And also he said, it seems like these thieves can be caught, but then they're out the next day. So what are we doing to address that issue?
That's a great question. Similar came up last time too. So, we have seen an increase, not only Rohnert Park, but Cotati, Santa Rosa. And I get alerts all day from agencies who put out information so that other agencies can see it from all over the county and state. And this is a statewide problem right now. What the catalytic converters bring to people, it's what's in the catalytic converters that they want, and so they take the catalytic converters because they contain, I'm not sure even what it is they want out of them, but there's a value there. And it's unfortunate because usually when they take a catalytic converter, they damage the car because they cut it out. So we have been increasing our patrols. We've got our cops team, our community-oriented policing team, which is an undercover team working out there. And we have Jill who is trying to show us where there's clusters and bundles and stuff taking place. But we have seen an increase, and not only us, but us, Santa Rosa and Cotati are doing a lot of talking. We know that the same people are involved. It's not a bunch of different groups, it's the same people. We have made some arrests, so we have been fortunate there. Just in general, thefts from vehicles are up a little bit. We have been seeing an increase in that. And, I talked last time about the fact that it really takes two things to have a crime, right? It takes intent, really the intent on the person committing the crime, but it also takes opportunity. And that is where we as a community can really look at helping is, I heard it today. It was a great quote that they said, we need to get back to realizing our vehicles are a vessel to get us from one place to another. It's a transport. We've gotten in a habit, myself, I'm just as guilty of using it as a storage, right? We don't want to take things in and out. So we leave a lot more stuff in our vehicles than we really should. And when you leave stuff in your vehicle, especially if you're leaving it in plain view, your temptation, all right, which is going to create that intent on someone to go in. So, one, let's make sure our vehicles are locked. Let's check them. We get a lot of thefts where people are just going down there checking door handles, and when one opens, they're in and out, and they're in and out so quick that it's really hard to catch them. So, let's remove the temptation and the opportunity, and that will help a lot.
Oh, removing temptation is a really wise thing to do. Now,
Exactly.
somebody in my family actually has suffered the loss of their catalytic converter twice. So the first time it was stolen, they went and got insurance to cover it if it ever got stolen again. And about 6 months later, wouldn't you know it, it was stolen a second time. So is there any kind of protocol that somebody can go through to maybe limit the possibility of them stealing? If they have a Prius, how could they kind of be proactive and maybe do something that would limit their accessibility for getting it stolen? Is there any tips?
Well, we know that CPTED is crime prevention through environmental design, right? We know that there are things you can do through that. And one of those things is lighting.
Lighting.
Criminals like to work in the dark. They like to work where they're not going to be seen or where it's difficult to see them. So just simple, unfortunately, most people use their garages for storage. So therefore, they can't put their car in it. That would be my number one request. Put the stuff in your garage outside and put your car in your garage. I think that'd be way ahead.
Probably would work.
But probably not going to work. So the next best thing is try to light that area. There's motion lights, there's floodlights. There's a lot of things you can do that are pretty minimal in cost that can really help that area. Cameras are we're finding them pretty effective. I know that I have the Ring cameras on mine. So the problem used to be that, yeah, you had a camera, but they didn't work at night. Well, I was able to get the Ring cameras with the two lights. So the motion goes on, lights up the area. I'm looking at daytime. So those are excellent ways to do it. I don't really know. I'm not aware of anything that you can do under your car to prevent people from getting to your catalytic converter. But, it really is more of just being aware. If the dog barks, pay attention. They're usually barking at something. Because I can't tell you how many times someone will say, yeah, the dog was going crazy last night. We really weren't paying attention. And they got up in their car. They were trying to tell you. So look out the window, step outside every once in a while. And the other thing is get to know your neighbors, because having a strong neighborhood and a strong support system in your neighbor and neighbors looking out for each other is really important. And if you're interested in any kind of neighborhood watch or how to get that started, let us know. We will help you get that started. We just before COVID, we were really trying to make a push for the neighborhood watch. And we want to continue doing that, but get your neighbors to know each other and have people look out for you.
Great advice. When this happened to my son-in-law, I suggested that perhaps they wanted to raise a pet crocodile and have it sleep under the car at night, but they rejected that idea. So I think the Ring lights is a great option. And, basically people doing bad things don't like the light, so if you can get some Ring lights or some, some kind of lighting system, motion detected, so that when they show up, because usually if you throw the lights on them, they run. And then the other thing that you said, Chief, is communication. I mean, think about this. We have 911. 911 is a direct hotline of communication. Help, or somebody needs help, or here's a situation, we need to address it right now. And that's all about communication. So if we have built relationship and communication with our neighbors, it just goes to show you that, you're probably going to have more eyes and more awareness about what's going on with your cars, your vehicles, or your home. So, hey, we live here, let's get to know each other and help each other, right?
Well, the other thing to that too is don't be afraid to call us. You know who belongs in your neighborhood, and that the hairs on the back of your neck, or that gut feeling people talk about when you see something that's just not right. We would rather go out and just contact somebody and find out, oh, okay, you live here, and no problem, and go away, than not get the call and find out later that someone did see someone in our neighborhood. So a lot of times people say, well, we didn't want to call and bother you. And I can't say this enough. You're never bothering us. Absolutely. We work here for you. We're here for you, and we want you to call us. We would rather get out there ahead of the problem than not. So don't ever
Better
hesitate.
safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry.
And
Absolutely.
while we're on this line of the thefts, and I don't know if it'll come up later, but I'll answer it now. We have seen a little rise around vehicle thefts, not thefts from a vehicle, but theft of a vehicle.
Actually taking the vehicle.
We tend to see that. It seems like they go up a little bit this time of year. And one of the things that we can usually see is a trend is, I can't tell you how many of the vehicles that were stolen recently. The person said, yeah, I went out, I started my car and I let it run to warm it up and unfreeze the window. And I went back in my house while it was doing that. You talk about opportunity and temptation. If someone comes along and there's a running car there with nobody in it, you're going to probably lose it. So if you're going to start your car, please remain in it, right, while it's warming up, and don't leave the keys in plain sight. So that's just a quick advice, because we see it happen this time of year all the time. So hope
That is great advice. Always be in your car if it's running. Never leave it. Okay, so great wisdom on that one. Now there's a follow-up part of the question here, and that is that there was a discussion at the last council meeting about on-street trailer parking and on-street RV parking. So is there any updates or any information on that?
Absolutely. So I think the last part of that last question also was talking about we put them in jail and they get out. There are some pretty strict protocols right now with the jail and the courts. And so people are right. People are not staying in jail, and the people we are able to book into jail right now is pretty limiting. Kind of violent felonies, violent crime type stuff. So don't get discouraged by it. It doesn't stop what we're doing. We're still being very proactive and trying to prevent that crime and arrest people responsible for it. But the person who wrote that question is correct. We book them and it seems like they're out the next day. But a lot of that has to do with the COVID that we're under in the pandemic. So please keep the faith in the justice system, and we will continue to do our job. As far as the travel trailers, boats, and RVs, yes, that has never fallen off the table. It's been pushed around the stove, back burner, front burner, right? Because we continue. In fact, I read a staff report on it a couple days ago. We're getting ready to go back to council with this, but we need to be able to make sure we're taking the proper information and we're given good options. And there's a lot of laws and rules we have to work around with parking. For instance, right now, we're trying to figure out, working with the city attorney's office, and whether if we try to eliminate that RV parking or the parking of boats and unattended trailers on the street, does it require you to put a sign on every street? Does it require you to put a sign only at the entrance points of the city? And the case law is not real clear on it. So we haven't given up on that issue, because it still is an issue. We're just trying to make sure that when we bring it back to council, we actually have a good solution for it. And we're not trying to create something that we wouldn't be allowed to do. And in secondary, if you do a no parking, but you're saying, but if you're going to load your trailer for a camping trip, you can have it parked out there for this long. How do you do that? How do you make it so you can't have parking, but then there's exceptions? So we really are trying to figure that problem out. And I hope I'm not going too far out on this, but one of the issues that we have here is the storage of RVs and trailers. And some of this has to fall on the responsibility of the owners of those trailers, and just coming up with a plan. If you decide to go out and buy a trailer or an RV, you really need to have a plan on how you're going to store that, because the street's not a storage place, right? The streets are not designed for storage. That's not the reason. So, a lot of people, they get the trailer or the travel trailer or the RV, And where I'm going to store it becomes a secondary question as opposed to a first question. If I get an RV, where am I going to store it? You know, so the proper storage by the person owning it will help simplify this problem. But we are working on a solution to address it because it is a problem. It is problematic.
You know, everybody wants to have some good off time, but again, it goes back to this relationship. If you have a relationship with your neighbors and you kind of build that relationship, then you want to kind of think it through. Hey, how am what I'm doing in my yard, or what am I doing on the street? You know, that's a public street. And so how does that affect my neighbors and the neighborhood? And so, yeah, just thinking that through can solve some problems. But, you know, on the other hand, there are some people that just, they don't think much. And so, you know, you've got these issues that we all have to deal with. So thank you for addressing that. All right, so here's another question. We are doing this not as we would have designed it. We're doing it online right now, and it's a nice tool to be able to do, but we want to be able to get back together. But the reason we have to do this online is because of COVID. We're still in lockdown, and now we have a new year. Is there any updates about how COVID is affecting us here in Rohnert Park or in the department, or, you know, is there any update that you'd like to share with our community?
Yeah, I know. I have to believe there were about 46 or 47,000 people in Rohnert Park that hoped that on January 1st, 2021, at 1 minute after midnight, COVID disappeared and we came back to a whole new world. I know I did, but for the community, I know I know everyone out there is just, they're tired, right? They're fatigued from this thing, and they're people are trying to figure out how to survive, and it is rough. So the health order it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to decipher, but when you're trying to balance the health order and the enforcement of the health order with your community and the community needs, and you see businesses shutting down and you see people unable to go into work, you're trying to make this, it's a thin line balance, right? Because I understand as the chief our duty to enforce that health order, because the only way we're going to get through this is, at least until that vaccine starts taking over, is to have people not out socializing and getting together. But then there's that other balance of seeing these businesses and what's going on with them, and our kids, and not being in school, and people who are out of work. So that's been tough. And as tough as it is for me to try to do that balance, it's 10 times tougher for the community who's trying to deal with it, right? Because at least I'm in on some of the meetings, and I might have a little bit of say, not much, but I can give it. But most of the people don't have that, and so it's pretty frustrating. Right. So I would just ask that as a community, if you're going to decide to have a party, or you're going to decide to violate the health order, just think about how it's going to extend it and what it's going to do to the businesses and the people out of work. Because every day we extend it, it affects them. So we just need to buckle down, and we need to just get through this thing. And if you're not, do it for the restaurant owner and your children, so they can get back in school and we can get back to the normalcy. We've been very fortunate inside the public safety building. We're making contacts with people all day long. We can't just stop that. And we put a lot of safety measures in place, and a lot of requirements that I know, my personnel didn't sign up for when they signed into this business. But, we've had very limited positive tests, and we've had a number, 100 officers tested because of and they're doing a good job because they're not getting infected. So as far as public safety and COVID, we're doing a good job to keep it out of here, because we have to. because if it went through here, who's gonna be there for the community? But we're struggling to get through it too, because we know how hard it is on the community. And I talked to a business owner today, and during the discussion was, I don't necessarily have to eat, but I got to pay my rent. And because even though there's rent forgiveness right now, or that's being deferred, it's not going to go away. What I owe isn't going to go away. So, it was a really, really tough listening to that story of someone in this day and time, as rich as our nation is and our country is and our state is, to hear somebody say, I don't need to eat, but I got to pay my rent. It's disheartening. So, we worked really hard to try to get these sports fields closed down. And I know it wasn't a popular thing, but, trying to get these groups from going out there and playing these large soccer games and these large football games and baseball games. And so we've kind of got a handle on that right now, which is helping. And for the most part, I think the community is doing a good job. It was tough because of the 2 Christmas and New Year's. I mean, what a time to have a pandemic and a shutdown, right? When those 2 days. But, now that that's over, we're in 2021. I hope everybody really buckles down and just works to get through the next couple of months, so that vaccine can take over. We can get that curve down and start getting out of this widespread purple tier, start moving down through the red, orange, and yellow. So, and that's about what all I have on the COVID. It's a tough situation.
Who knew that we'd be walking around like a bandit, right? But we want to be safe. So we all have, guess what? That old musketeer saying, it's all for one and one for all. And we're literally all in this together. And let's keep the faith. Don't give up. It is really hard. But, hey, do what you can to be with the people that you live with and be safe with them at the very least. Keep your communication lines open. But when you go out in public, man, follow the protocol, be a good example, keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, and we'll get through this.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so, speaking of updates, now we have a new year. There's also perhaps there's, when you kind of go into new seasons, sometimes you get updates on protocol and or regulations and things like that. So is there any communication that you would like to give about any updates that our citizens or the people driving in Rohnert Park should know about?
Yeah, it seems like every year the legislature comes out with a nice big stack of new laws, and the ones that really I wanted to get out if I had an opportunity today were some of the traffic stuff, just so people are aware of it. So I think one of them is effective January 1st. Drivers now have to slow or move over. It used to be only on the freeway, but now it's on anywhere when you see an emergency vehicle with their emergency lights on. So you need to slow down or you need to move over if you're able to change lanes. And, this is just as a result of the number of emergency personnel. And I'm not talking just about public safety. I'm talking about Caltrans and road workers who have been, killed or injured. So that's a new law. So effective now, if you're coming up and you see an emergency vehicle stop with their lights on, you got to slow or move over to provide a safety cushion for them. So that's one thing I definitely wanted to let people know about. Another one that was kind of interesting that came out is so, and I'll just read it because it's easier. So bystanders and passengers will not face civil or criminal liability for damaging vehicles in order to remove unattended children ages 6 or younger who are in immediate danger of heat, cold, lack of ventilation, or other dangerous issues. So, I know that there's been different times when a child's been left in a vehicle, it gets over 100 and some degrees in there, and there's been a loss of life. So they'd actually put it in law that if you're saving a child and you can show that it was a dangerous situation, the idea is to get in there and get the child out. So I just wanted to let people know about that one. And then the other one is distracted driving. So up until now, it's been, you get a citation if you're driving with your phone in your hand, right? And a lot of people have a misconception of if they're just holding their phone and talking into it, using the speaker, it's okay. So this is hands-free. The legislature with this law has come out and said, we don't want you holding your phone and conversing, texting, or anything on it. That's why the Bluetooth is popular, right? So it's hands-free. Don't have your phone in your hands. If you do, the changes effective July 1 is that if you get a second violation for a cell phone violation within 36 months, it's a point on your record. And so the reason I wanted to let people know that is because up until now, it's just been a citation, right? You get 100 citations and nothing happened. But now they're going to start putting points on your DMV. And as we know, accumulation of points over time can lead to higher insurance, possibly suspended licenses. So I don't want anybody running into that. I just want to tell people, one, is really dangerous. We see a high percentage of collisions because people are on their phones. And so we know it's dangerous, but they've just added a little bit to it. And so I don't want to see anybody get a point on the record. So keep your phones in your pocket or use Bluetooth, one of the two.
Do not have it in your hand. Even if it's, just don't do it when you're driving. Don't have one. Don't put your phone in your hand. Bad.
Yeah, and
Bad.
people, and a misconception also is when you pull up to a stoplight, so you're driving up, it's green, it goes yellow, red. So you've got, 3 other directions of traffic before it gets around to you. So you figure you got, what, 3 or 4 minutes? People tend to pull their cell phone out when they're stopped at the stoplight. The law is if you're in that vehicle in the lane of traffic, you can't have your cell phone. And so that's just another point. Even though you're stopped at a stoplight, it's still illegal. So just keep it in your pocket. It's
So if you need to use your phone and you don't have Bluetooth, pull off.
Pull over or pull in a parking lot. Absolutely. Yep.
So many times we're trying to save time because that's usually why people will break that kind of rule. It's a convenience thing, right? So they don't want to take the time, the minute or 2 minutes that it would take to do that, to pull over and then do it. And so guess what? It's worth your investment to be safe for you and everybody else. Don't text, don't drive with a phone in your hand. Just don't do it. Be safe, be a good example. Okay, any other updates?
Well, I think in addition to that, it's that, we all have our personal opinions of ourselves and our abilities. And I think people think it's dangerous. I think people know that it's distracting. But I also believe that they think, but I can do it. I don't get distracted, right?
I'm the exception.
You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it because it is distracting. But but people it's just, all it has to do is take a split second for you to react longer than you normally would, and you're in the back of somebody or you're pulling out in an intersection. So, it's just don't do it. None of us are. And believe me, the vehicle code says that police and public safety are exempt from this law when in the performance of their job, right? And I'll be honest, I do not, I don't want my officers on the phone when they're traveling. We have the radio, right? That's enough to deal with. You're driving, you're trying to do the radio. So unless it is necessary, I tell the officers, there's no need to be on that phone right now, right? It's because now you're going to a call, you're listening, you talk about a lot of stuff going on. So even though the vehicle exempts us, it's not something that I promote in the department to do, because we're no different. We don't have a different distraction level than anybody else does. So
right. I saw one of the comments there that if you're driving a car and you don't have a Bluetooth situation, there are some options that are rather inexpensive, economical, that you can invest in. A little speaker that you can put in your car. So it's just a great investment. I mean, what's more important than safety in your life and keeping your vehicle from an accident? I mean, look at all the trouble you get into just that split second, like he was saying, and then boom! Oh, I didn't mean it. Guess what? You've got to make a decision beforehand, before you get the car. Listen right now, a New Year's resolution. We're going to drive safe. We're going to wear masks when we're out in public, and we're not going to use our phone when we're in the car unless we have Bluetooth and it's automatic. So hands-free, I agree. Hands-free is the way to go. Good. All right. So a couple other questions or situations here. Now, this chat with the chief, how long have you been the chief here in Rohnert Park?
Well, I have been fortunate to now have been the chief now for 2 years. So December 28th was my 2-year anniversary. And I came in and the city manager didn't put luggage in here for me to pack up and get out. So looks like he's going to let me stay a little longer. But yeah, I just completed my 2nd year, and it's been a great experience. I have not regretted making the move, not one time.
So you've been here in Rohnert Park for 2 years, but I have a feeling that you've been in law enforcement longer than that. How long have you been in the service?
Well, now you're asking me to give my age away, but so this past July of 2020, I hit my 30th year in law enforcement. I started with the city of Woodland as a academy graduate, a brand new cadet, on July 9th of 1990. And I remember going in the locker room that day to get ready for my first shift. And one of the veteran officers just said, "Hey, enjoy it because it'll go quicker than you think." And I remember thinking, I got 30 years ahead of me. I mean, I got time. And, now that I'm at about 30 and a half now, I know what he meant. It did. It went so fast. But yeah, I'm working towards my 31st year now.
So we have a chief that's been here for 2 years, but embedded in his career for over 30. So we have a lot of experience here. And coming into Rohnert Park, I see there's on the wall there behind you, you've got a whole bunch of badges and things. So what are those all about? Does that represent some of the years of experience that you're talking about?
It does not. And I'll just move this real quick. So this is it's a patch collection. It has every patch in the state of California or the nation. There's a patch representing every state patrol, like Wyoming State Patrol, Wisconsin State Patrol, California Highway Patrol. And I ran into a gentleman. I try not to sit at my desk all day. I try to get what I have to do in here, and then I try to sneak out and actually get out into this community every day. And one day I was in Home Depot, and a gentleman came up and he introduced himself, and he said, "I have a patch collection that I would love to have displayed in your building." And he says, "But if you ever leave, you got to give it back to me." I'm like, "Absolutely." So he dropped it off one day, and we were remodeling the department. This was just about 5 months ago. And I said, I can't put it out in the lobby right now because we're getting ready to do the remodel. And I said, but most of the people come to my office anyway. And so I showed him this spot, and he actually said that's where he wanted it to hang. So it hangs there. I have his business card or his card on the back with his phone number, knowing that when I leave, I need to call him and see what he wants to do with the patches. But yeah, that just represents all the state agencies and in the state. So it's kind of nice. It's a conversation piece.
Nice. So you've been here for 2 years, and what would you say are some of the key wins that you've seen the department experience since you've been the chief?
So when I got here, there was a lot going on in the city with the public safety department. And, you know, we were able to, prior to me starting, the city manager and staff had begun putting together a plan to look at restructuring the department. So when I started, I was given this opportunity on a platter. Most of the work had been done by the others, but coming in, I got to look at restructuring this department. And so at one point prior to my starting, there was a chief or a public safety director. There were 4 commanders and there were 12 sergeants. And when you look at that, it seems like a lot, but there's the, you know, when you're in a chain of command type situation, you really want there to be oversight at the different levels. And so we were able to restructure, and we now have myself. So we have the chief, we have 2 deputy chiefs. So I have an individual, a deputy chief, Mike Bates, who is assigned to the fire division. And I have deputy chief Aaron Johnson, who is assigned to the patrol division, the law enforcement side. So now we have a high level command staff member who actually oversees each of the disciplines. And then we also have 4 lieutenants. 2 are assigned to the fire division and 2 are assigned to the patrol division. So now we have, there's the way it's designed is there's generally always going to be a command staff member present. We lose it from about 2 in the morning to 8 in the morning. There's not a actual command staff member. But other than that, we are covering the whole week. It's also helped us divide up just the work and the oversight and the report review and staff reports. So I really consider that one of the biggest wins for the department is getting that new structure in place. We've made some really good hires recently. Our staffing we're almost full again. And that is tough to stay at a full staffing in your dispatch center, your record center, your patrol and your public safety officers. Because it takes so long to get someone trained. And I might have mentioned this last time, but you know, we go through a hiring process, which is an interview, testing, chief's interview, polygraph, background, medical, psych. It's a whole realm of testing, right? And that takes 4 to 6 months. And then I send those people to a 5-month police academy. And then they come out of that police academy and they go through a 16-week field training program with a field training officer. And then they get on the street. So you're talking about a year just to get them through the academy and training. And then at some point, I'm going to take those people and I'm going to put them through a 5-month fire academy and then come out and do a 5-month or a training program. So to be where we are with our staffing and the trained officers we have, I'm really proud of how staff has worked. And that's not just our staff, that's human resources, that's city staff, because there's a lot of people that go into doing that. So I think that's a huge win. And right now, I think one of the biggest wins for the department is just, we have outstanding people here. And they really care about the city and they work hard and they're dedicated to it. They bought into the vision and the mission. They bought into the back to basics policing philosophy. And so we're in a good place right now.
What is a back to basics police philosophy?
So back to basics is something I brought with me from when I was in Sassoon. It's just, a few years ago, we kind of went through what we're going through now, right? With the Black Lives Matter and some of the marches and the movements. And so you had 2 choices, right? You either push against the problem, right? or you listen and you try to change it. And so one of the things I always felt was that the people that were upset about what was going on with police and use of force, they weren't all wrong, right? There were some things that needed to be corrected. And one of the things I thought needed to be corrected was just a change in philosophy of, we need to get back to what our job is and get back to the basic elements of policing, right? And that is taking care of our community in the most respectful and professional way that we can. And so it was just a, like Novocaine, you just got to keep giving it, it'll finally kick in. And so I brought that philosophy here, and it's like, you don't have to make 1,000 arrests a week. The idea is to solve problems, be open to your community, find out what the issues are, but always do it in a respectful and professional manner. That's what back to base. There's a lot of layers in there, but basically that's what it is. It's just taking care of your community in the most professional and respectful way that I expect. So that's what back to basics is.
Now, there was just a comment while you were explaining that I think is it fits right in this. Someone just asked the question, well, why does Rohnert Park have a duality in our safety officers where they're both police and fire? Is that a good thing? I mean, what's up with that? So why don't you address that?
Absolutely. This question comes up all the time. So I love this question because 29 years for me, my first 29 years, I was a law enforcement officer. I worked for a police department, and there was a fire department in there, but they had their own chief and their own people, and they did the fire department. And so coming here and getting to understand and know the public safety model has been eye-opening for me. I tell people that if something's going to happen, if you're going to be sick or there's going to be a fire in your city, you want to be in Rohnert Park because all of our people are cross-trained, right? The firefighters are police officers and the police officers are firefighters. Our police officers, almost all of them have now been to the academy. But once they graduate the fire academy, they carry their gear in the back of their car. All their fire gear is with them. So even though they're out there working patrol, they're going to be the first on scene on a medical, a lot of times on a fire, and then they kick in as a firefighter. So there's advantages. There's some great advantages to it. All our staff is cross-trained. They can switch back and forth. When you look at it, you have one chief instead of two, but I still have deputy chiefs over each discipline. But the thing I love about it is there's only a couple of our agencies. There's us and Sunnyvale, and then there's some small agencies who are doing kind of a hybrid. But we know that the more training you give to people, the better they can do their job. And so by having people trained in both police and fire, they're so intermixed, they're intertwined, they're both in public safety. We have one of the most highly trained group of individuals in this department anywhere. And so I'm excited about this model and didn't even know about it for 29 years. So heard about it.
The interesting thing is the Rohnert Park safety officers are the epitome of first responders.
Oh, absolutely. So I always joke, and my fire guys always get mad at me, but I say, listen, if there's a fire, if there's a call that comes out, dispatch is going to go to both police and fire. Smoke scene, this is the address. The police officer, the guy driving the gal driving the car is going to get there because one, they're in their beat, response time's closer. And when they get there, they're going to be able to start sizing up that fire. Here's where the hydrants are. This is the lines you need to run. This is where the smoke's coming from, right? And the firefighters, as I tell them, you have to go out, you have to slide down your pole, you have to get your pants on, your boots, and get in that big red truck. So by the time you get there, because you've got people on scene, because they're trained, they may have just worked fire the last rotation, what you're rolling up to, and we can attack that fire and address it in a much quicker manner. So, I mean, I think it's a great system. A lot of people that don't understand it, my the chief side knowing that they just don't understand it, so they don't want to know about it. But I tell them it's the best kept secret there is.
When you think about the cross training aspect, it's fantastic. You always have, if you have a safety officer there, you have police and fire there at your hands all the time. So whether it's a criminal, I mean, a lot of times in the crises when we know something's going on, when you hear a racket or you don't know what's going on and you go, uh-oh, we need some help here. You know, the public doesn't know. Sometimes we really don't know what help is needed. But whoever shows up is kind of trained for whatever needs to be done in Rohnert Park. It's great.
Absolutely.
Now, another comment that I saw, someone said, hey, I really like these chat with the chiefs. I didn't even know they were going on. How long have they been going on and how long are they going to go on? Why don't you talk to that?
Yeah, so this is our second. As we stated at the beginning, we're going to be doing these the first and third Tuesday of every month. And they'll go on as long as people will log on and watch. When I start getting 0 people, I'll probably have to stop it. Lupe and Jill are going to want to go home on time on those Tuesdays. But yeah, they're going to go on. I don't have an end date in mind. When we get through this pandemic, I really want to get out and do these in person. That's what I truly love to do. So this having to do them over Zoom and not being able to get out with people is killing me. But this was the next best thing. And you know, when I was at my other agency, there wasn't the pandemic, and I was able to get out to groups and get in, and I loved it. And so I wanted to start them here. And part of the reason is because I don't want to wait till the pandemic's over. We need to start having discussions, and we need to start having honest discussions. And so I want to create a forum where people feel comfortable coming on and asking questions. And I know it's going to take time. I have to build that trust with you, everybody out there, right? You're still waiting to see, is this really going to last? Is it right? So I'm a patient person, and I'm willing to work through these things and continue doing them to build that trust. Because I really want to know what's going on out in the community. I can't make changes if I don't know something needs to be changed. So that open dialogue is going to be really important. And it really does start with just building the trust. These people tell me I'm crazy for going on to a forum like this without a script and literally taking questions just as they come in. They're like, you're going to get tripped up, and for me, it's like, okay. I mean, I'm a very honest person, and I'll answer your question to the best of my ability. And if I don't know it, I'll go out and find it and I'll get back to you. But I wanted these to be unscripted so that people would see that I am real, and I do really want to hear from them. We're gonna hopefully start getting into some different dialogue and conversation as people out there start trusting and this thing builds. But I think this is a great start. I'm glad people are tuning in, and I'm glad people are liking it. But I'll be here as long as people want to talk. Absolutely.
That goal of building trust, having a communication line where people hear about it, and we can do it online as we're forced to, but then when we start having these open forums where we get together in different locations and trying to just welcome in everybody who lives here, that this is our community, this is our safety officers, we want to live in a safe place. And so when we build this relationship and we have this open communication, it can only make everything better. And like you said, you're being proactive. We want to be ahead of the problems. So if it's one thing to address problems in the past, but man, let's learn from that, and then let's get ahead of this thing. So if we can think these things through and prepare and then be ahead of the problem before it arises, I mean, that's fire prevention, right? and crime prevention. And then that's that relationship with our neighbors. And then it's the relationship that we have with each other when we have businesses and churches and homes and departments that we all live here together. The more we can communicate and interact with each other, the better that's going to be.
Yes, absolutely. And I know it's an old cliche, but I do have an open door policy. I other than right now, my door is closed because I'm in here by myself, so I have my mask off. But I do. I try to be accessible, and it's important that the community members, you out there, know that you can reach out to me. I know that I've worked in agencies where people just don't have access to the chief, right? You go through an officer, then a sergeant. I mean, you got to go through a lot of steps to get to the chief. And I think people have a belief that, oh, I can't call the chief, but you can. I'm just telling you that you can. I'm always available. You don't have to wait till this to ask a question, or if you have a concern. You can call me. You can call me directly, and I will call you back. And you can email me directly, and I will get back to you. I truly take pride in that I work for you, and I need to be available to you. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to me, thinking that, oh, I can't just call the chief. You can call the chief. I'm no different than, as I say, I have to stay later and turn the lights off. That's the difference, right? But yeah, I'm always available. So please don't ever hesitate.
Chief Mathos, one of the things about having an unscripted, here we are live, is that we're being real, right? I mean, this is who we are. This is who you are. And when an emergency happens and you have a first responder show up, it's a real situation. That's not, I mean, they train, they go through scenarios all the time, but each time they go out, it's unique. And you get real people showing up in a real situation, and it's not scripted. And sometimes mistakes are made on anybody's behalf. And so this ongoing training, this communication, or this word accountability. So what is the accountability structure like here in Rohnert Park? Like, do we have people with body cams? What is the transparency factor when it comes to our officers?
Yeah, absolutely. In order to run a successful organization or business, you have to set expectations, and then you have to hold people accountable to those expectations. And there's different ways to do that. But the first one is setting that example and leading by that example, right? But we don't hide anything from the public. There are certain state laws that prevent us from providing information, right? There's confidentiality, but outside anything that is preventing us, we don't keep things from the public. And we're trying to get more information out on our website, because for me, I guess I get the information, and no one's really ever said, well, I want to see that. So it hasn't been something, but now that I'm hearing people want to see statistical information and demographic information and what the department we're trying to get that out there. We're trying to make sure it's accurate. We want to get accurate information, but we're working on that. All of our officers do wear the Axon body camera. I have one right here that I wear, and if I don't wear it, if I get up and run out and forget because it's plugged into the charger, my staff will remind me, "Hey, Chief, where's your camera?" So I have my own, and all of my staff has it. And the thing about the cameras is it's a great tool. It's unfortunate because of body worn cameras. Now there's this idea, especially in juries and in courts, that, well, if it's not on camera, then we can't believe it, right? So there's been this huge pendulum swing that way. So that's probably one of the things that I probably dislike most about the camera is we've become so reliant on it that if it's not on, it doesn't exist. But part of that is we've got to get back that credibility and that trust in the community. But that camera it does a lot for us though, because when you put that camera on an officer, yes, the people in the public, knowing they're being filmed, their behavior can be better. But I also know, just in the statewide studies and smaller studies, that even the officer wearing that camera and knowing they're on camera, their behavior and can be even more professional and better and improve. So I like the cameras for that, and they've been invaluable in a lot of situations. And we put, whatever we can put out, we put out. There's no secrets in here. It's just some things we can't put out to the public because state law prevents us. But
Right.
there's no reason. I mean, I want the community to know what they're entitled to know, so that they don't think anything bad is going on behind these doors. This is a great group of people we have working here, who come in every day and strap on that uniform and go out. And as you said, never know what they're walking into, but they come back the next day to do it again. So the community is fortunate. We've got great officers here who want to do a great job. And it's my job to make sure that they get the training and the tools to do that. And that I set really strong and good expectations, and that I continually raise the bar, because I know that they'll get there. If I raise the bar, they'll climb to it. They're just that type of personnel.
Ongoing training, that was interesting, the process that you shared, how you recruit people, then you train them, and then they have to, in Rohnert Park, they have to go through the police academy, then they go on the job training, and then later on they also go through a fire academy, and then they're done with their training, right? Once they've gone through that, that's it, right?
I wish. I'd have budgetary savings, but absolutely not. So, we get our training licensing. We're accredited through POST, which is Peace Officer Standards and Training. And I have to say 99% of agencies in California are with POST. And that's the standard for training. That's a state standard that's set for training. And so, yes, you got the academy, you've got your field training program, but we have yearly requirements for training, and hourly requirements, course requirements. Our officers, until they retire, are never done training. There's driving, shooting, defense, there's bias training, there's harassment training. You name it, there's training. And officers get 40 hours of training minimally every year, not counting their perishable skills. And then once they go into like a detective position or the cops position or motors, then there's ongoing training. Our motor officers, they don't just ride around and write tickets. They have gone through, they work their progression through traffic investigation schools to where they become experts in traffic reconstruction, traffic investigation. And the same with detectives. They go through this course where it's broken down. It takes them about 2.5 years to get through it. But it's every aspect of your detectives division. So the training never stops. Our patrol officers always training, and our fire always training. We have a very robust training program within the department. So every Thursday is what we call our double day. So we have two different sides of the week. We have people who work days, swings, or graves, Monday through Thursday. And then we have people who work days, swings, or graves, Thursday through Sunday. So we're covering all 7 days with 8. So Thursday is when everybody works. Both sides of the week are there. And so out of the 56 Thursdays of the year, I think about 50 of them are reserved for training. So every Thursday, either A team or B team is in a training. And that can be a firearms training, that could be a fire training, that can be a hydrant training. And that whole part of the department is in training that day. So not only do they get the post-required training, but they also get that weekly, basically twice a month, you're receiving some kind of training in the department.
That's awesome. I happen to know that. That's why I asked the question the way I did. That uh, we have it's a very difficult, challenging job, really tough. And you know what? It needs the best of the best to do this job, and to keep them on the cutting edge of being the best of the best, they need ongoing training. So, man, we just appreciate, I love living in a community that feels safe. Doesn't everybody? And to do that, we have to have highly professional, trained officers. But man, the other thing I really hope that one of the goals of our chatting with the chief can accomplish, and it's just one of the things that we can do to address this issue, but where there's not a feeling of them, those guys. We don't, them. I want us to feel like us. These are our officers working for our community where we live. And we're all working together to live here safe. That's what we want. That's what I want. And I know that's what Chief Mathos wants.
I just
Absolutely.
want to jump in here real quick. I know we're kind of watching the clock a bit, but we did have a question come in earlier. And so I wanted to make sure that she had her question. It came in a different way, but it was regarding speeding specific to Camino Colegio between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. It's an ongoing problem. Is this on your radar? No pun intended. And then there was another question in the chat, also addressing speeding, running stop lights and stop signs, donuts, and it's a big problem. So can you address kind of our speeding and what we're doing regarding those two areas for us?
Absolutely. So speeding issues are on my radar. I love that. That was a great way. But it's so funny because we actually use LiDAR now as opposed to radar. It's much more accurate. It sends a beam that actually targets the vehicle that we're after. I know when I was young and using radar, I'd have to go into the court, and the question was, well, how do you know it was my car? Because it sent out this wide range and picked it up. And so I wish they had LiDAR when I was there, because it's actually a beam that actually targets the actual car. So we do use it. Our officers are trained in it. So I recently had the opportunity to promote an officer to the traffic division, and he was able to successfully pass a motor school, which is a really difficult school to pass. And so he is fully up and running now with his motor, and he has been doing a phenomenal job out there of addressing these problem areas. And so it was yesterday, I called him and I had him meet me at on Adrian between John Reed and Southwest. And I just said, hey, I've been getting some complaints about traffic on this stretch of road and also Santa Alicia. And so, can you kind of put this on your list? And so what he asked me, and it was a very good question. He says, if those people can just email or call dispatch, and dispatch can email me that information, it'll get on the list a lot quicker. And so that's what I want to say to the person who asked the question first is, we know there's issues, and we don't want to guess where they are. So if you're having those issues, you can email me, and Jill will put my email up. You can email me, you can call the main number and lodge the complaint, and we will get them to the traffic officer, because he does have a list that he keeps the complaints on. And that's where he goes and does the targeting enforcement. And so get that information to me and we'll get it there. We try to do as much traffic enforcement as we can. It's not only the traffic officer, but our officers are also trained in traffic enforcement, and speed is a problem. And so I'll make sure that one gets passed along. But yeah, don't hesitate to call. And then as far as the donuts, the exhibitions, the speed demonstrations, they're calling them, we're doing some pretty cool stuff. I would say that if you're on this call, don't go out there and do donuts in the middle of an intersection, because you're not going to know whether we're watching or not. And we have actually been able to catch a few people and tow their cars. Even though we weren't there to actually see it, the technology that we're using to pick up these violations are allowing us to write warrants and go out and take these people's car from them for 30 days.
Beautiful.
We are doing some we are very aware of it. We do not want that problem to grow in our city. We've seen what it does if it gets out of control. And so the community oriented policing team, the cops team, that is one of their immediate responsibilities. And they have been working on it. And I was told the other day that we've got the technology up and running out there in different areas. And so we're watching them. But if you see it and you call us, let us know. And because if we get out there when it's going on, it makes it even easier. But we need to know where they are. I know we can see the black marks in the intersections, but please don't hesitate to call.
Would it help if they videotape that situation on their phone to give it? Would something like that help?
So one of the things we've been successful at is if we can show the activity and identify the vehicle being used in that activity by the license plate, we can then take that information and move forward and try to get a warrant for that violation and go get the car. So if someone, but I don't want anybody to get in harm's way, and I don't want anybody to put themselves in a bad situation.
Absolutely.
But if you have a camera that faces out to an intersection and you're able to pick up the vehicle and the license number and you get that to us, we'd be more than happy to take that information forward and see if we can't remove their car for 30 days so they can think about their behavior.
Great.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Any other
Okay,
questions?
do we have any more questions?
Not that I've seen, and I think we're up on our time and think we're good to go, unless anybody has a question they want to put in chat right now for the chief. I think we're set.
So what I would ask is, we asked this the last time. We want to know if these are valuable to you, if they're worthwhile, because I don't want to waste your time. I do want to keep these going, but if I get a sense that people really aren't interested, maybe we'll go a different direction. But if each person, if you can just tell someone about this, the next one will be January 19th, third Thursday, 6 to 7 or 7-ish. I would love to get more people. And so if everybody just tells somebody and they tell somebody, we'll get this thing rolling. And pretty soon we'll be able to do them in public or, out in person. So, but please tell if you thought it was interesting or informative, please tell somebody. And like I said, don't ever hesitate to call me, email me. I will always get back to you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking out an hour or so of your day. I know all of you are busy. I'm sure dinner's still got to be cooked. So thank you so much for taking this time to spend with us.
Thank you all. Happy New Year. Blessings to all of you.